I'm 84 years old. My name is Margaret, and if you're about to scroll away, please wait just a moment. What I'm about to say is something nobody ever told me honestly, not once in my entire life. I was married for 52 years. When people hear that, they nod and say something like, "That's incredible. You must have done something right." And for a long time, I believed that too. There was never any shouting in our house, no dishes thrown. My husband never raised a hand to me, and I never threatened to leave. We were just quiet, quiet at dinner, quiet on vacations, quiet on Sunday mornings when the coffee was still warm. I called that peace. I called it mature love. Friends would say, "Margaret, you two are the ideal couple." Every time I heard that, I smiled and said nothing. But a few months ago, I was sitting alone in my kitchen at 3 in the morning, no lights on, just sitting in the dark. And in that quiet, the heaviest truth I'd ever known just came up inside me, slow, like it had been sitting there a long time. We were never quiet because we loved each other. We were quiet because we had stopped expecting anything from each other at all. I have one more thing to tell you before this ends. It might be the hardest part. Please stay with me. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My mother was a quiet woman. When my father got angry, she never raised her voice back. She would just walk into the kitchen and start washing dishes, her hands in the hot water, scrubbing away. You could hear the sound of it, that was all. I watched that growing up, and somewhere along the way, it just became part of how I saw things, and I never really thought to question it. Good women are patient. Good marriages are quiet. I met Robert when I was 22. He was a steady man, didn't talk much, didn't show his feelings easily. But I thought that was a good thing, solid, dependable. The way my mother had put up with my father, I believed I could build a calm life with this man. Looking back now, I wasn't choosing love. I was choosing familiarity, something that felt like home, even if home wasn't always warm. After we married, I worked hard at being a wife, up at 6 every morning to pack the children's lunches, memorized what Robert liked and ironed his shirts just right, helped the kids with homework in the evenings, never missed a school event, never argued with the neighbors, volunteered at church on Sundays. And every night I told myself, I'm a good wife, I'm doing the right thing. That belief got me out of bed the next morning. But there is one question I never once asked myself during all those years. Am I happy? I was afraid to ask it because somewhere inside I already knew the answer. And if I truly faced it, I would have had to look at everything differently. So I just kept moving, kept doing, kept being quiet. It was about 10 years into our marriage. One evening, Robert came home from work. I had dinner on the table and was sitting, waiting. He hung up his coat, washed his hands, and sat down without a word, started eating. That day I had been alone since morning. The children were at school. I had cleaned, folded laundry, cooked, hadn't spoken to a single person all day. So I took a breath and asked him, "How was your day?" Robert didn't even put down his fork. He said, "Fine." That was all. I felt something wrong in that moment, heavy, right in the middle of my chest. But I pressed it down immediately. This is just how it is. Men don't talk much. My father was the same way, so I pressed it down. The next day, the next year, the next decade after that. What I didn't realize was that every time I did that, something inside me was slowly going out, like a light that nobody bothers to turn back on. At first it was small things. When Robert walked through the door, my heart no longer moved. His birthday felt like a task. I used to try to catch his eyes at dinner, but somewhere along the way I just stopped and looked at my plate instead, and I told myself that was normal too. Passion fades. Everyone lives this way. This is just what marriage becomes. But it wasn't normal. It was the sound of two people giving up on each other. No announcement, no date on a calendar. Just one quiet day after another, each of us letting go without a word. I only understood that much later, far too late. I had a friend named Dorothy. We had been close since we were young women, lived in the same neighborhood, had children around the same age. We met for coffee every Tuesday for years. Dorothy was different from me. She and her husband argued, loud sometimes. There were days they wouldn't speak to each other at all. I used to worry about them, if I'm honest. I remember thinking to myself, they're going to fall apart one day. What kind of marriage is that? But Dorothy and her husband did not fall apart. A few years ago, her husband passed away. I sat beside her at the funeral. It was late autumn. The chapel was cold and still. Dorothy held a handkerchief tightly in both hands and didn't speak for a long time. Then very quietly, almost to herself, she said this, "We fought a lot, but we never once lied to each other." I felt something drop inside my chest when she said that, something cold and slow, sinking all the way down. Dorothy had lost her husband, but she had lived a real marriage. I had 52 years with mine, and I could not say what she just said. Her words stayed with me for a long time after that. On the drive home, lying awake that night, I kept turning them over in my mind. We never once lied to each other, and I asked myself honestly, what about me? Had I ever lied to Robert? No big lies. I never had an affair, never hid money. I was a faithful wife, but I had been lying every single day. Every time I said I'm fine when I wasn't. Every time I said I don't need anything when I did. Every time I stopped asking how he was because I was too tired of hearing nothing back. I was hiding my real feelings every day, telling myself it was the mature thing to do, the wise thing, the thing that kept the peace, and I was not the only one. After that day, I started looking at the couples around me differently, people who had been together for decades, long marriages, steady marriages, and I began to see the same pattern everywhere. Couples who never fought, couples who always seemed content, couples who sat together at holiday dinners and smiled. But when you looked closely into their eyes, the warmth was gone, the familiarity was there, the habit was there, but that feeling when you still care about somebody, when you still want to be near them, it was gone. I gave that pattern a name, silent surrender. No one leaves, no one shouts. They just stop hoping for anything from each other one quiet day at a time, and then they call it stability, they call it maturity, they call it a good marriage. I know now how many marriages that silence has emptied out without anyone ever noticing. Robert left the year I turned 72. It was a divorce. After 52 years, people assume something dramatic must have happened, a betrayal, a fight that finally broke everything open. There was nothing like that. One evening, Robert sat down at the dinner table and said to me very quietly, "Margaret, I think we have been living together for a long time, but I don't think it's been love." I didn't get angry when he said that. I didn't cry. I just looked at him for a long moment, and inside one word came up, yes. That was the most frightening part. I had no argument to give him, because I had felt the same thing for years. I just had never once said it out loud. I thought keeping that silence was how you protected a marriage. After Robert left, I kept his room the way it was for a long time. There was a book on his nightstand he had never finished, his glasses case beside it. I couldn't bring myself to move those things. Moving them meant it was truly over. But here is what I regret most. It isn't the divorce. What I regret is that while we were still together, we never once really tried to get close to each other. When Robert went quiet, I could have asked him why. When he looked worn down, I could have taken his hand and asked if he was all right. I could have told him I was lonely. I could have told him I needed him, even just once, but I never did. It felt like weakness. It felt like showing weakness. My mother never spoke that way, and I told myself neither would I. Now I live alone in this house, one cup on the table in the morning, the television too loud in the evenings because the quiet gets to be too much. The silence I used to call peace is just emptiness now. I think sometimes about what might have happened if we had really fought with each other even once. If we had been honest with each other even one time, I will never know the answer to that. I know now what I did not know then. A good marriage is not a quiet one. A good marriage is one where you can actually show each other who you are, where you can say I'm hurt when you're hurting, where you can say I'm lonely when the silence gets too heavy, where you can say I need you and not feel small for saying it. A relationship without conflict is not a safe one. It might just mean there's nothing left to expect from each other, that you've both just stopped caring enough to even get hurt by each other anymore. I kept the peace my whole life, but that peace didn't protect us. That silence was what slowly emptied us out, year by year, until there was almost nothing left. People think marriages fall apart because of big things, betrayal, lies, one terrible night that changes everything. But in my experience, the quietest endings happen in marriages where nothing big ever happened, where two people close the door on each other a little more each day, so slowly that nobody notices. Not even the two people living inside it. Real love is not a still lake with no waves. Real love is two people who don't let go of each other's hands when the storm comes. I didn't understand that until I was 84 years old. I want to ask you something. Your marriage, your relationship, how is it right now? Are you telling yourself it's fine because you haven't been fighting? Are you calling it stable because the house is quiet? Are you staying quiet about the hard stuff because you think that's how you're supposed to love each other? Are you thinking it's love just because nothing's broken yet? Tonight, do just one thing. Say something real to the person beside you. It doesn't have to be big. You could say today was hard. You could say I've been a little lonely lately. You could say I'm grateful for you. Just look at them. Use your real voice. Say one true thing. I didn't do that. Not once in 52 years, not the way it needed to be done, and now I sit alone in my kitchen in the dark, thinking about what might have been different until the early hours of the morning. Don't tell yourself it's too late. I'm the one it was too late for. You still have time.